Welcome back to my channel, y'all. Oh my goodness, I know it's been a hot minute, but I had to do my research, had to make sure I got everything right. So, if you are new to this channel, welcome to my channel. My name is Queen Alexia. You already know. So, as you read by the title, yeah, we're gonna get into this. We're gonna get into it. So, I wrote down some notes, so if you see me looking down, don't make fun of me. Again, when it gets to stuff like this, I want to make sure that I'm saying it correctly, because I don't want anyone to think that I took out of context, or if I'm saying it wrong, I ain't got no time for that. So don't make fun, just be glad that I did it right. So, here we go. So, as we all see throughout the media, African American people, whether you're old, young, middle-aged, don't matter, even pregnant, they will hurt you, and it's sad. And by they, obviously I mean the police. And it's sad that this is the new reality, I guess, but it shouldn't be. So for some of you who may or may not have thought of this, for me it was, well, where did the police come from? What's their origin story? Like, what made them say, hey,
we're gonna do this for people?
So I did some research, and disclaimer, this research that I found was the only clean version that I could find. And by that I mean there is so much disgusting and 10 times worse information I could have found. And I know some of y'all are like, well, give us let us hear how bad it is. No. As much as I would love to do that, my heart couldn't take it. I cried doing this research. It was that bad. So we're gonna start off with this. In the South, obviously, the first police forces were overwhelmingly white male and more focused on responding to disorder than crime. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty familiar to me. And it seems like everything way back then it's already continuing now. And it's sad. This should not be our reality. But again, I'm using air quotes for police because, again, I know what you're thinking. Well, you still haven't gotten to the point, where did it come from? Well, here we go. There are two historical narratives about the origins of American law enforcement, but we're going to focus on the one. So, policing in southern slave holdings started, basically the root started as slave patrols. Slave patrols. Let that sink in. Squadrons made up of white volunteers, so they didn't just say, hey, we're gonna go to boot camp, we gonna do this and this. No. These were white volunteers. They volunteered to do this. But oh baby, it gets better. Empowered to use belligerent or violent tactics to enforce law related to slavery. They located and returned enslaved people who had escaped, crushed uprisings led by enslaved people, and punished enslaved workers found or believed to have violated plantation rules. Again, I don't know about you, but this sounds pretty familiar. So let's go back and dive into this. They located and returned enslaved people who had escaped. Escape what, man? You mean freedom? You mean the fact that you couldn't fight your own battles, so you had to come all the way to a different part of the world, take us, and then force us to do your work, which, by the way, we only got paid pennies for 10-hour days of labor. Yeah, I would escape too. Crushed uprisings led by enslaved people. Now this sounds pretty familiar because Black Lives Matter is an uprising. I don't care what anyone says, like, no, it's not. Yes, it is. We're tired of seeing our brothers and sisters being shot down, being accused of something that they didn't do, and for everyone to say, well, it's their fault. Why is it their fault for being who they are? Now, if Timothy did something horrific, they have an excuse as to why he did it. But because Terrell did it, it's, oh, because you're supposed to know better. He's 14. Boy over here is 35. Explain the difference. But now here is where it gets, to me, it gets like really like, wow, a professor had to say this. So I might mess up on the name. I'm sorry. Now again, I got this all on the interweb. So if I left out anything, please leave it in the comments. I will read it and I'll make sure that I put it into the next video that I make about this. So, as Eastern Kentucky University criminologist Gary Potter explains, officers were expected to control a dangerous underlist that included African Americans, immigrants, and the poor. Through the early 20th century, there were few standards for hiring or training officers. Yeah, that right there sounds about right. Like, I don't understand how hard it is for officers to just be like, hey, you know, let's actually train, let's actually learn, because in the history it shows that a lot of people started to come to the US because they wanted freedom. But as we learned, there wasn't a lot of freedom here. They painted this picture that it was, but unfortunately it was like, unless you were a certain color, you would get freedom. But if you look like me or darker than me, or you were albino, you didn't get that kind of freedom that you thought you would get. You had to claw your way to the top for you to even have a smidge of that freedom. But as we can see in old Hollywood, a lot of people still treated them like they were nothing. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to stick to police. So he goes on by saying this: police corruption and violence, particularly against vulnerable people, were commonplace during the early 1900s. Additionally, the few African Americans who joined police forces were often assigned to black neighborhoods. I wonder why. And faced discrimination on the job. I believe it. I do. In my opinion, not my opinion, the professor's opinion, these factors, controlling disorder, lack of educating police training, lack of non-white officers, and slave portray origins, are among the front runners of modern day police brutality against African Americans. The last two quotes were from a Kentucky University criminologist by Gary Potter. Those were his last two quotes. So for everyone that's been wondering, the origins of, why African Americans and the police don't get along, this is why. They're still using slavery tactics to harm us. And I know some of you are like, no, they're not. Yes, they are. They're putting their knees on our necks.
What became some of George Floyd's final moments. And
step out and face away. Please don't shoot me, Mr. Officer. Please don't shoot me, man.
his neck under the knee of Derek Chauvin.
I can't breathe, officer. Talking about yelling.
They are harming us in the worst way possible. They're doing the same things they did in the 1800s. The only difference is that it's a different playing field. Same rules apply, just a different way. And it's sad that we live in a world where you have to fight for your voice to be heard, rather than someone saying, hey, why are you angry? This is why I'm angry. Okay, let's talk about it. But instead you want to fight over who's right and who's wrong, rather than say, hey, let's look in the history books and see where they messed up at. History is still repeating itself till this day, and it's sad. And I don't want history to repeat itself. I don't want anyone to, be afraid to go out and have fun. And I say that because there have been countless evidence that shows officers killing black kids. There have been countless, videos and blogs and everything about them killing pregnant black women.
How did dropping off children at school suddenly escalate to this?
Touch me! I'm pregnant! Do not touch me!
Cooks is 8 months pregnant and never stops screaming.
What are you doing? Stop! Let my arm go!
She is arrested. In your opinion, how did the officers treat you?
Like an animal, like a monster.
Even people with disabilities, they've been killing them too.
That major outrage this morning after a behavioral therapist was shot by an officer after he held his hands in the air, lying on the ground, his patient with autism sitting right nearby.
By his lawyer, Kinsey in the yellow shirt works at an assisted living facility, and the man at his feet is a 23-year-old with autism who ran away from the group home. Listen as Kinsey talks to police. Kinsey even tries to calm the young man with autism. At some point, one of the officers shoots Kinsey, but he survives.
And again, it all takes place because of history, and we're still repeating it. And it's not just us. They're repeating it too. And even the officers that do get the chance to say, hey, I'm gonna call out people if they do this, this, and this, they mysteriously get fired. Why are you firing the people that actually want to change the way their police force is looked at? Like, why would you fire the one person that actually wants change? But then you gotta dive deeper into that. Like, there are people out here who don't care about peace. They just want it to look a certain way. And that makes no sense to me. And as a person on the news once said, you can't be racist and Christian. That's just facts. And if you don't believe me, read the Bible and y'all will understand what I mean. So I just wanted to serve my little 2 cents on this because I feel like we need to have this conversation. I know my video is short. I could be more into detail about it, but like I said, I just wanted to be short and straight to the point. I hope I was able to show you what I'm talking about. I hope my visuals were able to show you what I'm talking about. And no, there isn't any cute little shenanigans in this video because it's serious. Like, no one should bring life into this world and have to have the conversation of, okay, when you start driving, have your hands like this. Make sure you say yes sir, no sir. Make sure that, you have your phone on record. Make sure that, when we get your car, you have a camera in the front, in the back, on the side, so that you get every angle. So if something goes wrong, we have evidence. that's not something that a child should be having a conversation with. There used to be a time when I was a kid when I was happy to see an officer, but now that I'm older, it's like, dang, who do you call? Because everyone wants to say, well, who are you going to call when your stuff gets stolen? Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I wish there was a point in someone's life when they're like, dang, why are we still repeating history? And for those people who actually think that way, they're the ones that get fired. Y'all rather have the person that has 10 strikes for being racist throughout their whole life, rather than have someone who has a clean slate, isn't racist, isn't biased, isn't homophobic, isn't anything. But y'all will keep the one racist person because why? Y'all don't want to see change. And that's sad. So, like I said, I made the video short and sweet to the point. I hope you guys have a conversation about this. I hope that you guys do talk about it, because this needs to be our big talk. We're putting our lives out on the line every day. I did. In the beginning of the intro, you saw me a part of the Black Lives Matter protest that we did here in West Palm. And we're putting our lives on the line every day. Not because it's fun, not because it's a trend. Our life is not a trend. Our lives is not something that you can just say, oh, Black Lives Matter, da-da-da-da, but then the next week you have something else to say about it. If you don't believe in it, don't say it. And for those of you who want to say that Black Lives Matter is just a horrible thing, you haven't seen any of the documentaries. You haven't read any of the books. Because if you did your history, you would know why we're angry. You would know why we're frustrated. So have the talk with your families. Let them hear your side of the story. And for those of you who are watching and you're like, I don't get why this woman is mad. I'm not mad because I'm an angry Black woman. I'm mad because I'm tired. I'm mad because I'm sick and tired of seeing young kids, young men, older men and women dying because of something so small that could have been resolved with a, oh, okay, I understand. Or a, oh, let me tase them instead of shooting them 7 times in the back. It gets frustrating seeing so much death of people that look just like you. And I'm not talking about skin tone, I'm talking about Black people in general. It's frustrating. So, I hope y'all have this conversation. I hope you watch documentaries, because there's a lot on Netflix. I hope you read a book, because one of the documentaries does talk about how Trump literally put 4 men, young boys, in jail. So, I hope you watch the documentary. I couldn't get through it. I cried. I almost threw up. That's how bad it was. I still pray that they're mentally okay. So, hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe to this video. If I left anything out, leave it in the comments down below. And I will see you in the next video. No justice, no peace, y'all. Point blank, period.